Andy Chrisman of For Him has spent 40 plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm thrilled you can join us today. We are going to be having a great conversation talking with a daughter who became an expert in the field by navigating senior care, and her name is Amanda Bailey, and she's going to talk about how she founded Help for My Parents and the Memory Care Connection. And I know it's going to help a lot of you. But before I introduce you to Amanda, I always encourage people to check out alzheimerspeaks.com and make sure you go to our free educational resource section. There are all kinds of different things that you can access any time of the day, at your leisure, in all different kinds of mediums as well. And then also our sister company, Dementia Map, which is a global resource directory. And maybe you have a service product or tool that needs to be in there. Please reach out to me or just click on the button on the homepage and you can go ahead and enter yours in. And then I will review it and we'll go from there. But it's really important that we get people connected to these services, products, and tools, and we're here to help. So, with no further ado, let's go talk to Amanda. Well, Amanda, I am so excited to have you join us today. I think what you're doing is really cool stuff. So,
thank you.
So to start out, I'm going to have you introduce yourself to our audience. You know best what they need to know about you.
So I think first and foremost, I am a daughter of somebody who had Alzheimer's. It was early before we knew a lot about Alzheimer's. My mom passed away when I was 37, and I'm a few years past that now. It was in 2000 that she was actually formally diagnosed. And, they basically told us, we don't have anything for you. She wasn't a research candidate at the time. I learned, we learned on the fly, like a lot of families do. Not the greatest opportunity to learn, but it was what it was. That's what we had. And she went through all the stages of what I now know is the different stages of Alzheimer's, but she did them in like rapid progression. So from the time she diagnosed until the time she passed was under 4 years. So there were times where, she had certain stages and she just like blew through them. And sometimes that was a blessing and sometimes it wasn't. And, we just dealt with what came to us. After she passed away, I started the Alzheimer's Memory Walk in the town where I live outside of Houston. And ran it for 5 years with a group of ladies we were all just people that had been touched by this disease. And we wanted to do something for families to have some kind of outlet of some kind. And we wanted them to be able to have that voice in the process. So we started the Alzheimer's Memory Walk, and we ran it for 5 years, and then we turned it over to our association here in Houston. And it's still a wonderful walk to the day. I think it's going on its 22nd year. It's a wonderful walk, very well attended. Everything that we ever wanted to have a place where families could go and like share the experience together is what's still happening. And that to me is one of the most beautiful things. Um, in a couple of years after we started it, there was a memory care facility opening in the Houston area, or in my town where I live outside of Houston. And it was a small 16-bed memory care facility. We reached out to them. Hey, we have this walk. We'd love for y'all to participate. And they're like, we don't even have residents yet. We're just still building. And so got to know them, loved what they were doing, and an opportunity to their marketer moved away and an opportunity came open, and I reached out to him. I said, I don't know anything about marketing a memory care facility. I don't know anything about senior living other than my own family's personal experience, but I would love to come to work with y'all because I believe in what you're doing. And oddly enough, they hired me. They took a chance on me. And here I am 20 years later, still in senior living. I actually went on to be an executive director for mostly memory care facilities, but sometimes assisted living as well. Built a couple of communities from the ground up. Loved doing that. Stepped out and did hospice for a few years. Truly one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. Loved working in hospice. And about 4 years ago, I started my own business. So in the Houston area, I help families find long-term care options. In recent last 6 months or more, I've written a book on how families can go about doing this on their own. And I have developed a couple of products that are geared at reducing anxiety and things like that in people with dementia. So that's the Reader's Digest version of how I got here. And I've learned so much along the way. But I think always starting out at the fact that I was a daughter that went through this, I think still to this day is something that really helps me connect with families.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure that's why, the company chose you as their marketing person, because you could relate. You understand, you understand the other side, what needs to be sold, from their side. And that's critically important because a lot of times there's marketers that they haven't been touched and they don't really understand what's going on at that family home, or family circle in terms of care. And it's really critical. But why don't you go ahead and state the name of your company and your books and your product company as well.
Okay, so my placement service company in my book is called Help for My Parents. This is my senior living search workbook. It's called A Place to Call Home. You can see my little play on words that I can spell home through the middle of my company. And it helps families just like really truly become the expert in searching for senior living. So it's filled with like questions to ask and things like that. My other company is Memory Care Connection. So Help for My Parents is helpformyparents.com. And Memory Care Connection is memorycareconnection.com. I have a couple of multisensory based products that are based off of really leaning into the research side of how to reduce anxiety naturally in people with dementia. Certainly, we don't make any medical claims, and we don't say that medications are bad. We're just saying, there's other ways you can partner it, and we have lots of people that have given us testimony about that very thing when they've purchased our products.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about some of the challenges that you had as a daughter when you face early on, someone you love is diagnosed. I mean, it's tough on so many levels. Yeah.
And I actually, at the time I had moved away to the Atlanta area. And so my entire family was in Houston for that meeting, and they kind of piped me in on a conference call so I could hear, what they were saying. And we had one of the most renowned researchers in Alzheimer's is the one who diagnosed my mom. And that was wonderful. But at the end of the day, the answer back was, we don't have anything for you. And that's such an empty feeling. And, you know, I've talked to other families over the years that they got the same response. I mean, they're getting better with some options for early stages and things like that, where they can maybe have um, some preservation, you know, of what's going on for that person. But you know, at the end of the day, it's still the same answer, and it's a very hollow feeling to go, okay, well, what do we do? You know, I mean, that's really the question. What do we do? And I always say, as a family, we got very lucky along the way. Um, my mom, when the first time and only time that she roamed away from their home, her dog went with her and stayed with her the whole time. And when my dad was yelling for her, she was down the street and the dog was right there with her barking. We got lucky, right? When we needed to look for a care option to keep her safe and keep my dad from having, you know, more medical conditions than was already starting for him, we found my sister's hairdresser knew of a personal care home, a licensed personal care home, a mile from where my dad lived. And they were wonderful. My mom lived there for almost 2 years before she passed away. And they were phenomenal people that just loved on her and loved on my father and just took exceptional care. When she needed hospice, the hospice company that they really loved, they were very caring and kind, and the chaplain really connected with my father in a way that was very meaningful. We literally got lucky, and I didn't know that at the time. Obviously, at the time going through it, I was like, oh, this is our next step. Oh, this is our next step, and it felt hard and heavy, and the grief process and everything that was going on with us. And but as I stepped into senior living, and I heard stories that were so many challenges and brick walls that people ran into, I knew how lucky we really got, and we really were.
It's hard to find a community that you click with. Here in Minnesota, we've always been known for great communities, and I'll be really honest. I've been looking for a loved one, and last fall, I looked at a lot, and I walked out literally in the car and cried.
I did a little bit of that.
I was like, I can't do that. I can't put her there,
Yeah.
And one community, which was kind of interesting, I didn't have a good experience with several years ago. And, I would call and I wouldn't get a call back. I would go knock on the door, to enter, and either no one would answer, or they'd let me in and go, there's nobody here who can talk to you. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going there.
Yeah,
years ago. And then as I was coming back from looking at two others, the community happened to be like 4 blocks from my house. Would have been so convenient, but I was like, nope, I'm not going there. And my intuition was so strong, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna go.
Fine, I'll stop.
And under new management, and what a godsend. They are so kind.
It can make all the difference in the world.
So polite. You see them work as a team. They like one another, which is a big thing. I didn't see in a lot of these communities, which to me makes a huge difference. And so she's going to be moving in a couple of weeks, but man, it's hard. And and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Prior to doing this, I sold real estate for 25 years in the senior market, and part of my services was helping people transition into senior housing.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
And so,
But you've toured places from that lens.
Yeah. And I knew how to like financially describe, because everyone can't afford it and stuff, and have them look at it through a different lens and the whole 9 yards. And I still found it just excruciating to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's draining, and it's such a heavy decision. I mean, it's just a life-changing decision on so many levels that you don't want to screw it up,
Yeah. And, I wish more communities leaned into education for people, because I think when a person makes a decision with as much information as they can possibly gather, they feel more comfortable about their decision, and they're going to, even though you're going to have bumps along the road, because sometimes bumps are inevitable, you're going to feel better about your decision, and you're going to work through that. And you're not going to go, oh, I made a bad decision, I need to move into ABC down the road, and that helped. I mean, a move doesn't help the family. A move does not help the resident, and a move does not help the community either. The community, they don't make money on somebody who moves in and 60 days later moves back out. They, and they are a business, and I get that. You look for the caring heart, and hopefully they're running their business well, because if they're not running their business well, they're not going to be around long. So you want them to be really good at what they do, from that perspective as well. But an informed decision helps everybody along the way. I mean, that's just, one of you were talking about the team seems happy. One of the questions that I put in I have like 72 questions to ask when you tour a facility. But one of the questions is, does the team seem happy? Do the caregivers seem happy? Do they seem to get along with each other? Because you can feel that tension. When you walk into a place and the staff isn't getting along, you feel it. There's no denying it. And
it's not a team then. If they're
no, it's not a team. It's not a team, and that's not going to be a great environment for your loved one, because they're going to feel the tension too. And so much of what goes on behavior-wise with people with dementia, they feed off of the environment around them. It was really interesting. I just read a research study about. I have 5 grandkids, but 2 of them or 3 of them are in the toddlers and older toddler stage. And I ran across this research study, and it was talking about how the terrible twos kind of happen. And they were talking about, like, as the brain matures, you lean into experiences to predict what's going to happen next. And as a 2-year-old, you don't have those experiences to be able to help what determines next. So like when mom hands you the blue cup and you really wanted the green cup, you can't, your brain cannot experience the fact that, well, if I asked mom for the green cup instead, I probably could get the green cup, or, you just lay down on the floor and throw the temper tantrum over the blue cup. So, but what struck me about it is not only how logical that sounds, but how our seniors with dementia experience some of the same situation. They cannot necessarily predict what comes next, because their brains are not allowing them to draw on those memories to be able to do that. And so when you want to take them for a shower, they can't get to the, I love the feeling I have after I have a shower, because I feel clean and I feel refreshed, and it's a good feeling. They can't lean into that memory, because that's not a part of what's there anymore. And it made a lot of sense to me from that perspective.
Yeah, that education piece is critical. I think
it's so critical, and showing families how you're welcome to educate them on any and all subject matters. You can't lose with that.
Yeah, when I do a lot of speaking and training, and it's funny because I always say, I don't have to just talk to your staff. I can talk with everybody. You can invite your residents, you can invite your families, and they're just shocked at that. And they're like, what comes out most of the time is they're afraid a staff member might say something that will be taken wrong. And I'm like, if you have a good facilitator, that's not an issue.
Yeah, agreed.
At all, because if they're thinking about it, other staff probably are, and family members and residents might be thinking the same thing. So let's just lay it out on the table and see what
get it out in the open. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that it can be addressed. And when you have family and staff learning the same things, it makes it easier when they communicate.
Agreed.
Oh, it's so much
Agreed.
easier.
Because then everybody's on the same page together. I mean, they all get it together.
And so often I see, and I think it's part, and there'll be some that probably disagree with me on that, but that's fine.
They can.
So many communities will have free CEUs, but then they really don't hone in on trying to recruit those people. They're just giving away free CEUs to other professionals.
Yeah.
And that's never made any sense to me. If you're going to do that, actively recruit those people. But again, you can also have a CEU, which is just an accreditation for professionals, for family members that don't know, that is still good content for families.
It is. Sometimes excellent. Because sometimes if it comes from a third party, sometimes instead of the community saying something over and over again, there's more credibility to it.
Well, and it's phrased in a little different way, and everybody needs kind of those different outlets to take things in. But yeah, that's a big thing that I'm very adamant in. So I think your book has got to be so helpful. People might go, 70 questions, they're not talk to me that long. But some of those questions, I'm sure, are things that you observe as you're going.
They are. Some of them are observations. Some of them, if you're looking for independent living, you're not going to ask about, the memory care training, whatever. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for sometimes, because it's for all levels of senior living. And just kind of the first third of it is really just educational about, how to have the conversation with mom about next steps, how to move dad into the community, how to set up his room, how to connect with the staff, and how to stay engaged in a meaningful way that, has lasting effects for your loved one. And so some of it's real just educational from that perspective.
Yeah, I remember I had one client, and they bought several houses from me, and their dad was having issues and needed to move. But he didn't see the issues. He wouldn't talk about the issues, to them. Yeah. And so they're like, well, we bring him the senior directory of all the housing options and how much fun this will be. And he just throws it at us, and he gets all mad and tells us to leave. And I, as a real estate agent, I said, well, why don't I try something? I said, why don't I just mail a little bundle of information out to him and just say, I'm a real estate agent in the area. I know a lot of people are looking at moving. Here's some options. If you, want to chat, call me. So he received this package in the mail, and it wasn't overwhelming, but it was very simple, and it had this magazine with all these options in it. And I'll never forget Kay calling me and going, he has little stickies all over that thing. You know how many times we've given him that? And I said, but it was his choice.
But I'm not you, and it was his choice. He got to look at it at his leisure.
Yeah. And she said, we can actually have the conversation because he's bringing it to us. And so it's all about how do you communicate and do it in a dignified fashion.
Correct.
People. And sometimes you can't if it's a crisis and they're in denial, and the decision still has to be made. How do you think your personal experiences shaped the way you view senior care as a whole? Did that make a big difference to you in terms of your personal experience?
Yeah, it really did. And mostly it was about connection, right? I mean, I've had the personal experience. I've walked the same path, and I get it. And, whether that's the daughter of the actual person with dementia or the daughter of the spouse who's trying to care for that person with dementia, I've had those connections, and I really felt like I made a comment on LinkedIn the other day. It's like I felt really blessed to, before I became an executive director, to have done the sales and marketing piece because um, one, as a sales and marketing person, they make a lot of, they're the first point of contact with the families, right? They're the ones that sit with them, for the first hour, sometimes an hour on the phone, an hour in person. Maybe the tour takes another hour. Maybe they come back, before they ever even really get too deep into the community itself. That salesperson, they are as much buying into that salesperson as they are the community itself. And as a salesperson, it was always very, very important to me that what I said happened. And sometimes there is a disconnect in that. And you see salespeople rotating out of a building because of that disconnect many times. There can be other reasons, but sometimes that disconnect is happened. So when I became an executive director in a community, I knew that I never wanted my sales and marketing director to promise anything that we couldn't really deliver on the other end, because there's just no point in doing that. And I think my experience as a daughter, having a mom who lived in a community, absolutely played a critical role in my feelings about that, because it's just, you can't say, well, we do XYZ and we staff at X, Y, and Z ratio, and then it never happens. So, my roles within senior living really were driven based off of my experience as a daughter.
Yeah, I agree. Even like I said, when we were recently looking, I had people answer questions they didn't know the answer to, and so they just said what they thought I wanted to hear. Well,
Exactly.
then I would ask that question again later to another person, and I get a whole different answer.
That's why you get to write down your answers in my workbook.
Yep. And then
because when they write it down,
oh, but it's frustrating. It is very,
frustrating.
very frustrating, because then you're moving forward, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, this isn't going to work. And I just put a lot more time into all of this, and
it's an unfair situation.
And even if somebody is new and they don't know, it's okay to say you don't know. I'm new. Let me just double check on that, so I'm giving you accurate information. Thank you. I would
Please. Or we have a new nurse, and you know what? I would like to explore the answer to your question with my nurse before I answer it to you. Things like that. They're okay. It's okay to say things like that, and families truly appreciate. Again, coming from the standpoint that I had been that family member asking these questions, I would truly appreciate you being straightforward with me and getting back with me with a real answer, not just one that you think is going to happen or make me feel better, like you said, what I want to hear.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure is it. In terms of stepping out and opening up your own company, was that scary at all for you, or did it feel so right to do it?
Well, it was really funny. It was a situation where I had been approached by somebody who had a placement service company. She had recently started, and she was asking me if I'd be interested in. And I'll listen to you. What are you doing? Because I was working in hospice at the time, and she didn't really value my experience. She was just hiring people. I did not, or at least I did not feel valued in my interview with her. And after my husband, I was on a Zoom call with her, and after I hung up, my husband had been kind of on the other side of the camera. He said, "Why aren't you doing that? You do that for people all the time anyway." And I'm like, I don't know. That's a good point. And it took a little while to fester, like a few months and everything. And then I said, I'm ready. I'm ready to do that. And then 9 months later, my husband, who had been in pharmaceuticals for 25 years, went through a layoff because his company lost their patent on their drug and things like that. So they did a layoff. And he said, I'm coming to work for you. I'm like, really? How are we going to survive? So, yes, incredibly scary and intimidating, but, I do feel like I've always been on the path that God intended me to be on. And sometimes, some days it's hard to even think that there was anything else other than what He intended.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. I know when I had no clue of stepping into this space. I mean, 0. And
Yeah.
because I was in real estate, it's kind of similar to yours. It was and I did a lot of speaking and education about transition with housing, but then I started talking about my mom and memory care. And there was no memory care in the beginning when, which is, almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being my senior housing pals that said, we love what you're doing here. You've done great work. You've got other people doing this now, but we need you over here.
Yeah.
You step into this space because
that's awesome.
And I just thought they were crazy. And then they kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. And I'm like, what am I not seeing? Because I kept looking at myself. And I think a lot of people who step into this space go through this when they create something. It's like, what the heck do I know?
What was I thinking? Yeah,
I'm just a frustrated daughter or son. That's all I am,
Yeah.
I don't. And then it was like, wow, there's a lot I know.
Well, and that's a lot about the book is a very similar thing too, Lori, because I felt like people that do what I do in placement, they were just kind of just sticking people, giving them options of who would pay them the most or whatever the scenario was. And I wanted people to be able to, even if it meant don't come to me for your for placement. I wanted you to be able to pick up this workbook and do this on your own. You be the expert. You go in there with the knowledge and you're armed with questions to ask and checklists and things like that make you make an informed decision. You shouldn't have to rely on if you're using my workbook. You shouldn't have to rely on anybody else. I mean, I always say you can email me anytime, ask me a question. I don't care. It's fine by me. I don't, I only service the Houston area, but if somebody in, Tucson wants to email me and say, hey, I have a question about the senior living communities that I've toured, that's great. I'm happy to help.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Yeah. Well, and there are a lot of other big companies out there too that switch around, in my opinion, who their marketing people are and matching up. And and there's a lot of frustration out there in terms of how some of that stuff goes down.
I agree.
Where families don't even know they're signing up for help. And then all of a sudden, they're tied in to this.
Well, and their information is sold, and there's all kinds of things that go on that, they never intended. That's not what they were looking for in the first place. So, yeah.
Yeah.
People are always so funny when I say, no, the workbook's for free. I literally, right before I came on with you, I got a text message from a physician here in the Houston area. She's a neurologist, and she sent me a picture of her holding the workbook, and she goes, I love your workbook, and my families are so thrilled to have this resource. I cannot thank you enough. And it's like, that's all I need. That's all I need.
And that's a workbook. It's not a pamphlet. I mean,
Correct.
It's
correct.
It's substantial. So, that has a lot of value for people, and it will reduce so much stress. I mean, it will reduce so much stress because you don't know what you don't know, and
Correct.
you can't be penalized for that, but we
No,
penalize ourselves, and we kind of kick ourselves, and well, I should have known that. There's no way to
I should
know,
have asked that. I should have checked that, Yeah.
but you don't know all
No.
those things. So going to an expert, and Amanda,
And we
that
beat ourselves up over those kind of things. And we already have enough to deal with in the grief process of losing a loved one, especially a loved one to dementia. That's the last thing you need to beat yourself up over. I'm also coming out with a book on, it'll probably be out in a couple of weeks, and it will be about home care. So private duty home care, home health, and hospice will all be covered in that workbook as well. Very similar format.
Oh, and people don't know the difference. And now there's hospital at home, and which drives me nuts. I have some real issues with some of that from just my personal experience, with that, where it was not appropriate at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
And
dangerous.
And people don't know home health versus the medical side, which one just does personal, which one doesn't. And people don't have a clue on hospice and palliative care. I mean,
Yes.
they just are so afraid of that. And
They are.
That'll be a really good resource for people as well. So kudos to you for putting that together.
Thank you.
What, once you stepped into this space, I would imagine you found some surprises about how care decisions were actually made by families, and what they were told by communities as well.
Well, and the decisions, by communities too, because, and I know if you have the real estate background, you're going to understand what I say. So part of senior living is a real estate transaction. Usually you have a group of investors that have built this community, because these are expensive communities. The bigger ones are very expensive. And then most of those groups of investors, most facilities, I'm going to use that word, facility or community, are not owned by the company that operates it. Some of them are. There are some companies out there that own their own buildings and operate their own buildings, but a good majority of them are real estate owned, and then an operating company comes in and operates the community. And in doing that, they've made certain guarantees on how full the building was going to make, what they key performance indicators, the KPIs, how full they're going to keep the building, what kind of profit margin are they going to make, things of that nature. And there's so much that goes into that. Those are hard promises to make. So sometimes you will see a building where the operating company keeps turning over and over and over again. And that's a giant red flag, that things are just, they're wanting these companies to make these promises that are not capable of making, because the market is what the market is in that given area. The competition's too high, the pricing is out of whack from the rest of the competitors in their marketplace, or the care is just not where it needs to be. So, probably my biggest, I don't think my biggest surprise was from the families. My biggest surprise was that dynamic of how the companies have to operate within what they've promised to the investors, and how to be a part of that, and but also manage the care and the families and the residents and staff and all of that sort of thing. As an operator, when I was an executive director, I have a finance background, so I worked in oil and gas before I stepped into senior living. I was a credit analyst on a gas and power trade floor, which had absolutely nothing to do with senior living whatsoever. So I understood budgets and the financial transactions that make a company healthy and profitable. But there's such a component to the care side that's unpredictable and all of that. And so my biggest surprise was kind of that divide between the two, that it's not easily bridged unless, you have somebody who can come in there and explain the care side to the company and the company side to the families that are seeking the care, and make it all work. So that sounds like a huge challenge, but I think that that is a challenge that many executive directors will say that they deal with on a day-to-day basis, and it's a lot to manage, as you can well imagine.
Yeah, and I think there's just kind of that hard line, especially like with many of the RITs out there that are just totally financed. You know, that I mean, that's their main objective. Where you still have some family owned ones that might be managed by somebody else too. But you know, I have to laugh at how they kind of put the hand up, like, we don't need to know that. You need to know that in any other business. You do. You need to know the process, the services. You need to know the dynamics. You need to know. So why is there this line where it's either not being communicated the way it should because people are intimidated because it's finances and they don't want to lose their job and they don't want to test it. Because I think there's a lot of people in the finance market that understand, you know, because they're part of this too. They have to be. They have families that are going through this. So I think there could be much more understanding there if somebody would be brave enough to go, okay, you know, we've just been fluffing the surface here because nobody wants to rattle feathers. Let's get down to real world. Do you really want to have a premier building here and really serve? Or are you just out here to make, you know, big money?
Well, and the thing is, I think it's valid to say you didn't invest in gas stations. You invested in people, senior living communities.
Yep.
And there's a Grand Canyon of difference between the two.
Exactly.
And you know, and I don't know that anybody's not saying that. But I just think that my experience as you know, sometimes I felt like I was kind of in the middle of that a little bit. I understood this side and I understood this side, and I was trying to marry the two sides together, I guess. And but it's a daily challenge, and I think that one of the reasons we lose a lot of really good executive directors in this industry is because that is a lot of weight to carry. You know, you're hearing the company side over here, but you're hearing the family side over here, and it's, you know, you want to do good by both.
Yeah, but when you're an executive director, even though, you know, you're the, you know, king honcho in that particular community, you don't always have access to the board. Up here, that's the board of the managing company, and the managing company wants to keep their business. Yeah, so I think there's a dance between the two. There is. You know, they gotta do the tango and make some dives and do something that are a little bit risky, but they can have a lot of fun with that and a lot of profit. There's, I mean, I think of so many things that they could do to even do some research projects that would really enhance their services and then give them evidence base that would boost their community.
Agreed. I used to tap into a nursing school for volunteers in my communities because they needed the hours, they needed the exposure to, you know, and many times several of them went on to do, you know, to work in senior living and so forth. So there's all kinds of ways you can tap in, and you know, one of the reasons why I always say that if I ever walk back into a building, it wouldn't be back as an executive director. It'd be as an activities director because it would be far more fun and I would enjoy it so much more. But one of the reasons why I developed my memory care connection products was because, you know, there's just only so many bingo games you can play and, you know, the simple craft things, and there needs to be something where it's real meaningful and you've tapped into research and evidence-based items to really try to solve and engage a person with dementia. So, you know, that was one of the reasons why I leaned into wanting to, I call it my passion project, but you know, it feels like it's something that would really benefit a person with dementia, especially if they had behaviors and so forth.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned the evidence-based stuff, and I think sometimes communities get so hell bent on it's got to be evidence-based that they are
Hmm.
cutting out the creativity of their own staff because you know
Agreed.
what? All of those things started with a creative idea. Everything
Correct.
evidence-based. So it's like don't cut your nose off, you know, just to
Agreed.
spite your face. Give people the freedom to try new things and then evaluate. Did it work? Didn't it work? You know, what is it? And
Hmm.
should we match up with a research organization to pull this further? Like I'm huge on social engagement, and to
Hmm.
me, it's saddened me that it's just started to be really evaluated now. Because
Agreed.
I think that's why my mom lived 30 years because she was socially engaged. And
Agreed.
some people think, oh, well, you think you just kept her socially engaged. No, it wasn't just me. It was everybody. It was the
Yeah,
attitude.
no, it's not, it has to come from all angles, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's a shift in mindset to one
Hmm.
of heart set, you know, so
Hmm.
everything is edgy. There's not this right and wrong. There's this lovely middle that's mushy and it's flexible and it meets their needs, it reduces the stress, it increases the joy, and you know, you get back to being able to live life more fully, I think, when you're in that mushy middle.
I agree. I agree. And I think that, you know, again, we're not fixing anything because the path of the disease is going to be the path of the disease, but um, we can make the moments better. And, you know, there were times when, and one of the reasons I didn't really get into this, but with what really started me down the path of some of these engagement tools that I developed was we found reminiscence therapy with my mom quite by accident. She used to walk around with a little basket of pictures, and then she would carry the little basket everywhere she went, and then she'd sit down and she'd look through the pictures. They were a variety of pictures. Sometimes they were like scenery on trips that they had taken. Sometimes they were grandkids. Sometimes they were old pictures, new pictures. They were all kind of mingled in there, and they were very loved on. And we found out really quick that we could sit down next to her and talk about the people in the picture. And you would get these little flickers of recognition and a smile. And that's all I needed.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
And I felt like I did something. And I remember many times towards end stages of my residence, I would have family members come by one afternoon and they would be leaving. And my office was always like right towards the front of the, like where you come and go. And I said, well, how was your visit today? And they go, well, I was here. I don't know if she knew I was here, but I was here. And sometimes that's enough, but sometimes if you have something, you can sit down with somebody and get something meaningful out of it, even if it is a flicker, you know. There's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot of ways that makes you feel like you're doing something, I guess is the best way
Well,
to put that.
not just doing something, but having a meaningful
Have a
conversation.
meaningful moment.
Yeah, and that might be looking at pictures. It might be, you know, getting up and dancing with someone. I remember
Exactly.
with my mom, she loved music, and so
Hmm.
my brothers weren't really touchy feely. Like my daughter would come and she would do her nails. I would bring
Yes.
lotion and give her a massage. My
Yes.
brothers were like, I can push a button and Frank Sinatra will come on and that'll change her mood and she's happy.
And she's happy.
But we used to dance, and so when she was able to walk, we would dance that way. Then when she was in a wheelchair, and some people aren't comfortable with that, it's like we can still dance when she's in a wheelchair. And then it got to the point where that was difficult, and at the very end, we just danced with our pinkies.
Yeah. I love
it. We swayed to the music, but it was so precious. It was still this connection. It was joyful for both of us, and we had a good time. And I think, again, it's getting out of that mindset of right and wrong and how to interact, and really just being present and creating a moment that means something to both of you.
Correct. Because when you see that moment, you hang on to it. I mean, here, my mom's been gone. She died in 2003, and so 23 years, and I can still remember the flicker of recognition. I mean, I'm still remembering it 23 years later.
Yeah. So it's those little things. It is little things that are really so precious. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, gosh, we're just blowing through this hour. I want to ask you if there was anything else that you wanted to share about your workbook and your dementia-focused products and your placement services.
Well, one thing I would love to offer your audience is you can go on our website at helpformyparents.com and go to the workbook page. You can fill out the little I want a workbook section, and we will send you a digital copy. Just give us your email address, and I think there's a couple of other questions that asks you. But we're happy to share with it free. We send you a version where you can type in it, pull it up on your iPad or your phone, and you can actually do all the questions in it and write in the sections where it is in the workbook. So,
fantastic.
We are working with senior living companies. Like, here's a really good example. This is a place here in the Houston area, wonderful personal care home, and she financed a run of books, and so she's going to take them out and give them to doctors' offices in the area and churches and things like that. So if anybody's listening to you and you're a part of something like that, if you would like to get books, you can, and share them within your own community to help your community. That's a great resource that you can be a part of. Love to talk to you if that's the case. But again, on our website, you can contact us, and we'll do all that. We'll give you the digital version for free. We would love to help.
That's fantastic. I wonder, the libraries have grants. I wonder if any of the libraries would do that. And
that's a good thought.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
I have gone around the Houston area and left these in those little the little boxes that are in neighborhoods. I can't think of the name of them right now, but they're intended to be a book exchange. You go in, pull a book out, read it, put it back, and things like that. I have put some of these in the Houston area, so that's kind of fun. I've had people reach out to me and say, I found it and I'm looking for a place for my mom right now, so it's really kind of fun.
Oh, cool. Well, very cool. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for doing all you're doing. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope it helps somebody.
Yeah, and it's really substantial work.
Thank you.
Which is wonderful. Now, you have your website is helpformyparents.com. And
that's correct.
You have a website for Memory Care Connection, which is just memorycareconnection.com. You are on LinkedIn for yourself and for both companies. You have a YouTube page.
I do.
A TikTok, Instagram for both, Facebook for both. So we'll have all of that information for people as well. Thank you for being
thank you, Lori.
generous with your time and all of your skills, that you've put to great use here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you, and I love talking about this work. It's just like I always said, I have to believe that God put it in my life for a reason, and I'm here to try to act on it.
Well, it takes us all to get this job done. I mean,
Yes.
it's like a spider web out there trying to creep and crawl through it, and you get stuck in the tracks sometimes. And
Agreed. Agreed.
it really takes us all to help somebody be able to maneuver that and be able to get to the joy. Because when you're so stressed out, you don't think about the joy. You're just thinking about, I got to do this and I got to do that but you're not thinking necessarily about.
And we all know the impact stress does on our bodies. It's not going to be any good for our brains or our bodies. So you got to take care of yourself and find the resources that are going to work for your situation.
And the work you're doing and the work I'm doing, I think, and so many others, it's a different type of work. It's really a purpose-filled work, and it's different than your 9 to 5 job. I think
it is.
what you
24/7.
It's 24/7. But I think it just fills you in a different way, as a human being, and makes you feel like you're giving back. To be able to help the next guy out. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
For our audience, I always ask you to be a giver of hope. Like, click, and share. It doesn't cost you a thing. It takes seconds, but there are people in your sphere of influence. I don't care if it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, I still call it Twitter, but X, all of them that are out there that need this information. And sometimes people don't feel comfortable grabbing it, through like a Google search, or when they just see something once, they need to see it kind of on a repetitive basis. And the more they find that this information is out there and it's natural, and there's a lot of people going through this, it just makes it easier for them to reach out and not feel so alone. So help that process, like, click, and share, be a giver of hope. And of course, don't forget to check out Alzheimer Speaks for all our other free educational resources, as well as Dementia Map, our global resource directory. Until next time, see you later. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.
Attention seniors. Are you looking for a community that offers incredible benefits and stands up for your values? Look no further than AMAC. With an AMAC membership, you'll enjoy exclusive discounts on insurance, travel, dining, and shopping. Stay informed with 6 issues a year of our award-winning AMAC magazine, delivering trusted news and valuable insights. But that's not all. AMAC is committed to defending America's future by directly bringing the voices of our more than 2 million members to our elected officials. Join a community that cares about your needs and your values. For a limited time, we're offering a 1-year membership for only $1. Yes, just $1 for a year of incredible benefits and advocacy. Don't wait. Take advantage of this special offer and join AMAC today. Visit amac.us/join now. That's amac.us/join now.